humans, my name is Slady and welcome to my channel. If you watched my February reading wrap-up or looked at the thumbnail for this video, you know what it's about, and I'm starting off with how this all went down. It seems like an unlikely scenario, unless you're already aware I'm a chronic masochist for bad content sometimes. Flipping through my library's rotating book stands, I saw 3 reasonably sized books of similar cover theme. If you're not a library dependent like I've become, you probably don't know the struggle. Whenever you see something interesting, it's either the last book in a series with other installments nowhere to be seen, or a jumble of a series where you get the first one, but have a decent fear that once you sign it out, the others will never be available again at your leisure. So I pulled them out, and immediately knew that what I had in my hands was Riverdale. If you are somehow unaware of Riverdale, here's a brief non-spoiler summary because I scarcely know how to describe it in long form. Riverdale is a Netflix original show, aired in 2017, and is currently ongoing, loosely based on the main characters of the old Archie comics, Archie, Betty, Veronica, and Jughead, as they uncover secrets about their sleepy hometown, Riverdale. That's all the spoiler-free I can do. If you want to watch the show or read this book, click away now. As a show, I'd probably give it a D. I don't recommend watching it for any intellectual stimulation anyway. So I've watched Riverdale because it was a hot topic, and bad shows help me wind down sometimes. At the end of a night and you're drunk, what do you want to do more than eat pizza and put on Riverdale in the background and marvel at the weirdness that you're watching? Or anything else. Let's pretend that the right answer is Riverdale. I only got through the first 2 seasons. The first season, at the very least, had a plot line. Figure out who killed Jason. Easy peasy. Then they started with family backstories and town heritage. Betty's dad's a serial killer, Jughead is a gang leader, Archie's jailbait, Veronica is an aspiring kingpin against her father, and there's a growing D&D drug ring under all of this. It got a little much, and I promise I quit watching. I gave up long before everyone else did, and they're now outraged that the writers don't actually know where they're going with it. Even in season 1, you had characters on rationale flip switches, but it just got so much worse. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. This isn't a Riverdale comparison, really. I swear. Anyway, I picked up Riverdale the day before. I could have picked up the other 2 available because although it wasn't the immediate ones after, I watched enough of the show to the point where I wouldn't have trouble following along, but I didn't want more of Riverdale. Honestly, I didn't want any Riverdale, but this one is a prequel, so it had the promise of new Riverdale, which is curiosity-inducing. I wondered whether this book captured only the day before the incident that started it all, or a while beforehand, and how much they could add to the story with that timeline. As with cases like Riverdale, the books came after the show. Riverdale, the show, was released in January 26, 2017, but the day before it didn't come out until December 2018. When a show, or anything really, hits the wider public eye, the best way to continue making profit is to engage fans with content in as many areas as possible. When there's a gap in production, keep people invested with merch, interviews, events, teasers, books. Now you might be wondering why I gave this 2 out of 5 if I never liked the show. Well, actually, if you read my Goodreads review, its rating was closer to a 2.5. And that's because I can't fault it for being what it is, just another engagement tool and money grab. I think it is a form of praise sometimes to say this book is exactly what it was supposed to be. I would have been genuinely surprised if the book had done more than reiterate the events and character perspectives that are already dissected in the show, but it didn't, and that's fine. The day before, as I had expected, was nothing more than a character profile of each of the characters. For younger audiences of the show, or those without the will to put pieces together, even though it's spelled out pretty plainly, the book serves as an in-time precursor to the show's start. Because it's a mystery of what happened to Jason Blossom, the characters in the first season are reviewing information in hindsight, collecting pieces and putting them together. This takes all of the clues, all of the individual accounts of their lives leading up to the event, and spells it out plainly. It's like one of those student Shakespeare books some kids would get in school that spell out in the margins what everything means. And in that, since audiences aren't coming to the book for anything new, they just want more of what they already know. This book gets a pass. Since everyone reading it already knows all these clues, it's not a disaster when they insert text messages as direct subplot secret reveals. If someone genuinely picked this up with no idea what Riverdale was, and this was their first interaction with the story, they'd probably think it was a bit of a mess. There's no plot, it's just clues and profiles of the main characters. Actually, thinking about it that way, I will mark it down to just a 2, because it has no value by itself, it needs the rest of the franchise. A good example of this is on page 122, from Jughead's perspective. In that context, it's pretty messed up that the serpents are the ones painted as the enemy in this Manifest Destiny BS scenario. After the raid, the remaining Uktena formed the serpents as a way of preserving unity among the few of them that were left. He describes the town's history, how the natives had been slaughtered and the remnants formed the original Southside Serpent Gang, when in the show this information isn't privy to him until later in the seasons, and he goes, "Oh my god, this is a travesty! We need to rebel and write an article about it and tell everyone." So the book assumes that we already know, so Jughead is allowed to. Now, the hard thing to tell about a book like this without knowing before reading is the skill of the author. There's a very specific teen drama language that needs to be used because audiences are expecting it. And The Day Before nailed it, I guess, because it was articulate in some places and cringeworthy in others, of which I am sure are 2 things true Riverdale fans can't differentiate. For example, there's this fine paragraph from Betty. "I counted the number of green apples in the kitchen fruit bowl, 6, and the number of red, 3, then spent a few minutes wondering if there was a typical ratio we kept on hand, or if people just preferred red to green. Then I spent a few minutes wondering why I was wasting my time wondering about it." And then, in contrast, there was this extremely painful passage by Veronica. Excuse the drama that's about to happen, I'm getting in the role. Okay. "Nick St. Clair," I said, shocked, but pleasantly so. "What's happening here? Are you here to formally court me? Ask me to an honest-to-Gucci date? Because if so, that's charming. Amazingly retro. If Nick was having bona fide feelings for me, I wasn't sure what our next step was, but it wasn't terrible news." But the variation in language isn't well contained, if I'm being honest. Writing that is supposed to be of 4 distinct personalities gets blended together sometimes. Based on the words I'm saying, you'll probably know whose perspective I'm talking from, but regardless, let's have a bit of a game. I'll read this paragraph as it's punctuated, and you guess which character it is. It's easy to joke that Miss Gerdeline is, teaching me music, with the sarcastic marks and everything. But like I said, she is. And we wouldn't even, she's the one person in the world I trust with my songwriting. And she's the one person in the world who takes it seriously, who takes me seriously. Did you guess correctly? It's Archie. There's a lot of times I would have made Betty less basic or Jughead more brooding. Actually brooding and not just constantly commenting on his own cynicism instead of just being. And Archie less feminine, I guess. Veronica was pretty consistent, I'll give her that. So, until I got to the end of the book, I was playing a game with myself with the writing, deciding the level of professionalism of the author, and if not professionalism, then investment. No matter how good you are, if you've been hired to basically ghostwrite something of a pre-existing content, I can't blame you for not having your heart in it. As it turns out, as the blurb on the back of the novel says, Mikkel Osto has apparently published up to 50 books previously, and this is her preferred genre, I guess. Whether the paycheck is good or not, you don't get this far without investment. It seems as though she sticks to writing in properties of fan culture like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Charmed, and even a new Mean Girls novel. So honestly, everything aside, props to Miss Osto for being so successful in doing what she's passionate for, even if it's not my cup of tea. The book was written to the standard and expectations of its fans, so there's little more I can personally ask for of it as an extra content piece to a teen drama show. So yeah, that was my wrap-up and review of Riverdale the Day Before. I decided to make a specific review of this book over other ones because I figured people would be genuinely curious about its quality. After this one, I'm really starting to wonder whether I'm capable of DNFing something. I never have, and I think I'm pushing myself to popping my cherry, but it just hasn't worked so far. This book was surprisingly tolerable because I already knew what I was getting into. If you're a slut for Riverdale content, go pick this up. It's got kind of fun info excerpts, but it's overall pointless because you'll get and know that information eventually anyway. So, I'm Slady, and if you like my content, please subscribe for more. I divide myself between literature, movie reviews, and the occasional social commentary. If you have any gripes of experiences with Riverdale, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. Maybe fill me in on what's happened since I stopped watching. I would be interested, but also pained to hear so. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.